What's up everyone? Thank you for taking your time to click on this video. As you can see here, I made a sled for my Eskimo Quickfish 3i and I want to show you how I built it using 10 2x4s, 2 sheets of OSB, 3 pairs of skis I got from the thrift store, and hardware. As you can see here, I had my girlfriend in the sled as I was pulling it, and to be honest, I couldn't even tell the difference between her in the sled and me just pulling it empty, so I'll show you how I built it in the next videos. This video is part 1 of how to make your Jack Pine Island ice fishing hub sled. In this video, we'll be prepping the 2x4s to be used for the sled. You will be using 3 of the 2x4s to attach the skis and to support the 7 crossmember 2x4s. The 3 2x4s for the skis will be notched out and hardware will be installed to make assembly and disassembly quick and easy. All hardware is made of stainless steel to accommodate outdoor conditions. I used regular construction lumber since treated lumber is heavier and more expensive. I am planning on painting everything in the future, which will help protect the untreated lumber and gives you the ability to customize your sled a little more. The part list is pretty simple for this video. I included slides showing the materials, hardware, and tools you will need. Feel free to screenshot if you want to make your own Jack Pine Island. So I wanted this design to be pretty simple, where I have the skis as 3 pieces and then the crossmembers are all the same too, so they're interchangeable. And this is how I did the first ski. Essentially I want to cut notches out of here so that the crossmembers can go in and it'll be flush. So as you'll see here, I have marks on the end. This is 1 3/4 away, right here, 1 3/4 away. So that's the center of the end board. But then every other mark is the middle, so that's the center. So that's 16 inches off that end. And then I have 3.5 inches plus a 16th overhang on each side just for expansion. So you'll see here, I have 16 on center, and then 17 3/4 and 14 1/4. And I did a weak 14 1/4 and a strong 17 3/4. So it's a little bit over, so it's a little bit wider than 3.5 inches. As you'll see here too, each mark is 16 on center. Most every tape measure that you'll have will have them highlighted. So you'll see that 16 is a red number, and then 16-inch increments. That's for 32, 48, 64, 80, and the end where we have it 1 3/4 less just to match the 3.5 inches wide. And I had the marks for each one too where I'll be making my lines. So I went ahead and marked this line for everyone. That'll be my cut. So essentially I'll be cutting a notch here. So it'll come down here and it'll come all the way across. That's where the other crossmember 2x4 will go. I set the depth here. I don't know if you can see this mark here, but from the top to here I did 1 9/16, so it's a little bit bigger than the 1.5 that I'll need for the 2x4 that will be going this way. And to set this, I like to first of all set it a little bit high, that I know it is, line it up, and I will slowly line that up until the teeth are right where that line is, and without moving it, I will tighten this side. So then that depth is tight. I like to double check too just to make sure it didn't slip. And yeah, the tooth is right on that line there, so that's a good depth that I'll be able to cut across. See, I essentially took the line that I marked previously on each one of these. I took the line on each one, and the depth is what I need, which is 1 9/16, a little bit bigger than 1.5. And I'll be making relief cuts all through here to try to notch this out. So this is what you'll be doing for all of them. As you see, I just made relief cuts all the way through so that it's the same depth, and we'll be able to break this out. The next step here, we want to clean this up a little bit, and we'll take our chisel hammer and we'll just work on this. Doesn't need to be perfectly smooth, but just enough that you'll be able to get the 2x4 in there, no problem. So as you'll see here, this is the final product. We chiseled away here so it's nice and rather smooth here. It'll be perfect where we have this a 1/16 inch lower than what it essentially needs to be. So this is 1 inch and 9/16. So the 2x4 will fit right in here perfectly on the cross member. And the next step then is to do that for all of these. So for the end pieces, it gets a little tricky cutting these slots as the farther you go down. You can't get it straight. So what I like to do is cut a little bit here, since the blade of this skill saw is circular, so it doesn't affect anything in here. I like to get my speed square and just make the line on the bottom right there, and I'll just cut that across there just to make the notch. Have it, we got the first ski notched all the way out, as you'll see here. So essentially we're gonna have 2 more of these, and we're gonna have them on the ends and the middle, so 8 feet wide is what we wanna have it at. Another thing you can do to speed up the process if you don't wanna squeeze clamp these together is to line up the ends here, as you'll see there, and you can make your marks on the sides of each of the 2x4s. So you can just mark that. You can transfer that mark up here with your speed square, or I like to use that speed square as kind of a guide just to make sure that's a straight cut across. So you'll just do that for each one and make sure it doesn't slide at all, but you just go down the line, mark each one. So now that I have all 3 skis notched out, I went back and marked on center the centers for each of the 2x4s again, where that one was 1 3/4 inches, and then 16-inch increments after that from the end. So that would be 16, 32, 48, and so on. And then I took a speed square and notched it, and transferred that to the center of this, where I'll do a pilot hole now. Now that we have this hole piloted, it came out the back, and that's where we're gonna pre-drill. Let's see if it focuses here. We'll pre-drill here, where we'll need this for the bolt. So this is 1 inch across, so we'll spade bit 1 inch across here at the depth of the nut that we put on the back. I'll show you what I mean in a second. So the next thing is we're gonna 1 inch pilot with the spade bit each one of these. Luckily for me, the nut that I'm using is the same thickness as the blue mark on the spade, so I use that as my guide. If you don't have a feature or a mark on your spade bit that you can go off of, a simple masking tape or electrical tape, just make it so you go to the same depth each time. And I'll do that for all these holes now. Now that I have a plunge hole in each one of the holes that I need, the next step is to flip it back over so you can keep that on center hole. As I mentioned before, if you have a drill press, this step isn't as important. You might be able to skip a couple steps, but since I don't have one, I want to keep that center as close as possible. So the next step is using this T-nut that I have, and it's for a 3/8 inch thread. So I have a 1/2 inch spade bit on that I'm going to pilot in each one of these holes to install these on them. I'll see you shortly. Now that I got these holes piloted, these T-nuts will fit perfectly into them. I'll have to install these later. I'll show you how to do that. But one tip I might add is, if you're not overly confident that you drill a straight hole down, you can drill halfway with the 1/2 inch spade bit, and then since you already had the other half, since you already have that piloted, you'll be able to spade bit the rest of that. So your next step after you drill your 1/2 inch holes all the way through, like so, you will take some threaded rod. I have 3/8 inch. I got 3 of these. So we want them in 4-inch sections for the channel. And we want this threaded out because this is what the 2x4 cross section is going to be on. This 2x on. So you'll be putting this through this hole here, out the other side, and this is where we're going to put our washer right here. See if I can do this with one hand here. So the washer will fit perfectly there. And then I don't know if I'll be able to start this with one hand. It'll probably kick out. Yeah, I'll kick out. But I'm going to tighten that. And once I tighten that, it's going to sink this T-nut into the hole because it'll fit in there. And then those prongs will sink in there. And I'm going to do that to all of the holes on each of the notches. As you can see, I started some, but I did get them all cut and at least prepped. So I'll have to go and tighten all of these because they should look like that. Should be nice and tight, flush. So there you have it. Those are your 3 skis that you'll need. As you'll see, since we don't have a drill press, you'll see that some of them are a little crooked, and that's totally fine because the design that we have, I figured that majority won't have a drill press, so that's why we did cut these a little bit wider, just so we have a little bit more room. That's why they stick a little bit above the wood too, so we can get started. Next step after this would be to put the skis on, and I actually had the skis on. This is not my first design I had. As you can see, I don't know if you can see it there, I got the skis screwed onto those. But that was the first design I had where I was using adhesive and stuff. And you can see that ultimately this was a couple days ago, or not even a couple days. This was about a week ago, and it's still mushy because I'm in Minnesota in an uninsulated garage. So I wanted to make a design that didn't require adhesive so that it could cure and you could do it any time of the year. So this is the design, the second version. But ultimately, I originally wasn't planning on using locking nuts for that. This has a little tiny, see if it can focus here. It has a little tiny nylon ring that helps lock the thread. I originally didn't have that, but when I went to pick up additional nuts, they didn't have any regular and they only had these, so I tried them. And these actually work a lot better than what I originally had in mind to get these set, because the T-nuts do require a little bit of force to sink those into the wood, especially when you're trying to get it flush on that side, as well as lead this higher as well. So I would recommend that you use locking nuts. Again, this is 3/8 inch rod, threaded rod. I cut them down to 4 inches, and I bet I can get away with doing like maybe 3 3/4 inches, but ultimately it doesn't require too much. It's not too important, depending on the thickness of your plywood, as well as if you use a 2x4. This is a 2x4. If you use a 2x6, you'll be using a different thickness rod, of course. Now that we got the skis finished, we have our 7 cross members, which are again just 7 2x4s by 8 feet long. And what we do now is mark 1 inch from the end, and then I centered it with the horizontal line, 1 inch from the end on each end, and then we have a mark right at 48 inches on center for those. And I'll be using a 1/2 inch spade bit to drill into these. And yeah, I'll just make 21 holes and I'll get back to you. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the first steps. I've been doing this for about 2.5 hours, but I actually am going to go bowling now, so I got to clean up quick, and I'll throw a strike for you guys in the meantime. Tomorrow we'll just have screwing the skis on and assembling the whole thing. I'll show you how to assemble it. Ultimately, it'll be put together with 21 of these regular nuts. And yeah, it's pretty simple. I want it to be simple where you're able to take it apart and put it together rather quickly on the ice. And this is the design I came up with. Obviously, this is the basic version where it's pretty simple. There's a lot you could do in customization. That's why I kind of want to keep it nice and simple, so me and other people could possibly come up with different ideas and different processes or whatever to make it better and improve upon that. I hope you enjoy what you see so far and follow it along. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, comment below, whatever you need to do to get a hold of me. I will definitely answer if I can see the question. I'll answer the question.